May 6th. How we doing today? All right. Hope everyone's well. Today, we're going to talk about a really important topic. We're going to talk about AI again. The last time I talked about AI, I was talking about how it's coming for your job. It's coming for your white-collar jobs. And you might want to start thinking about pivoting and finding a different trade to get into or whatever, how you're going to deal with it or learning about it or whatever. Today, I want to talk about another aspect of AI. So I use ChatGPT for image generation, and I use Super Grok for animations, and I have folders in ChatGPT and I have folders in Grok. And when I do research, I use both of them, but I realized the other day that let's see, how do I want to put this? I made a post yesterday with screenshots showing Meta AI, what Meta AI returned, talking about Nibiru. And it completely made definitive statements and entertained Nibiru as if it's real. And then when I put that screenshots into Grok and asked Grok to, let me know what he thought about it, Grok completely destroyed it. And it brought up something to my awareness in that, how trusting of this AI are we going to be? Are we getting? What are you using to cross-reference when you search AI? When you search for something, a topic that you don't know about, because most people are not using AI to look up stuff that they know about. They're using AI to research things that they don't know about. How do you know that it's returning accurate information? Well, I'll give you. There's a couple things, and I don't want to piss people off, but I want to be real honest here in that, it starts with basic education from high school. If you were someone who failed science class and failed, math, and you weren't good at any of that crap, and then you went out and got into the real world here, and then now you rely heavily on what AI tells you, you don't have a good background to determine if it's bullshitting you or not. For someone like myself, I had physics, I had chemistry, I had biology, I had geology, I had world history, I had US history. I learned about all the wars, all going all the way back to the Roman Empire. I learned about all that stuff. I remembered all that stuff. I did pretty well in high school. Okay, then I got out and I got into trades, and I went and became an elevator mechanic. I worked for 5 years studying to learn that trade, and it was very hard. The schooling for that trade is very hard. I learned about advanced control systems. I learned about electrical theory, how to circuit trace. I learned how electronics work. I learned how relays and capacitors and resistors and all of that stuff works. And I learned about rigging and hoisting. I learned a lot of things, over the years by utilizing that stuff in my trade. And so I have a really good working knowledge of a lot of things. I know how engines work. I know how a lot of things work. So when AI returns something that is inconsistent with what I've already learned or experienced, I'm able to identify that right away and say, nah, that's not right. I'll give you an example. The N95 mask. When they came out with that bullshit in 2020 and told everybody to wear an N95 mask, I went out to my garage and I had an entire sleeve of those things. Okay. Did I wear it? No. You know why? Because it doesn't do anything. Okay. If you can blow smoke through that thing, you think a virus can't get through it? It's ridiculous. Okay. It's an N95 dust mask is good for dust. That's what it's designed for. Okay. No one is supposed to be wearing those things for 8 hours In the trades, we would put them on when the hazard is present. So if we're in a dusty environment for an hour or two, we would wear a dust mask. And then when we were done, we would peel that thing off and throw it away, because they're not designed to be reused. They're one-time users, and you throw them away because they're gross. After you breathe in them for an hour and a half, you get rid of them. Okay? So when they rolled out this whole idea, like, yeah, we all got to wear masks and stay 6 feet apart and all that, immediately in my head was like, how many people are going to go for this? And it blew my mind how many people in this country fell for that. It's absolute horseshit, okay? There's no science involved in that in any way at all. If someone was infected, it would contain them, but in no way would it protect the other person, you know? So when they sold it to us on, you wear a mask to protect your grandma from getting COVID, that was a complete lie, okay? And I knew that was bullshit because I was educated in N95 masks at the time, and I even had a sleeve of them, okay? I knew all about it, okay? But so many people were uneducated in basic science. You don't even know how big a virus is. A virus is so small. You know where they come from? They're on the gas station handles. When you get out of your car and you pump gas and you touch that handle, you got it on your hands now, okay? And then you get in your car and you touch your steering wheel. Now it's on your steering wheel. And then you go home and you touch your doorknob. Now it's on your doorknob. That's how you get fucking sick, okay? That's how it gets transmitted. So the solution, and it always was, is wash your damn hands. That's always been the solution. Wash your hands and stop touching your face, okay? And then if you do get your hands contaminated, it's not the end of the world. You just go wash your hands and wash anything that you touched. So during this time period, I was walking around the house with a little bit of bleach and water and mixed in a spray bottle, and I would spray all the doorknobs and wipe them down. Okay, disinfect the doorknobs, disinfect anywhere your fingers and hands touch. Okay, nobody got COVID. I didn't get it. Nobody I know got it. Okay, but I was already taught good hygiene habits because I work on elevators in busy places like hospitals and airports and places like that. So I was already aware of, you know, the biological hazards that are in these elevator pits that I have to jump in and out of and stuff. Okay, so I was already educated on this stuff, on good hygiene for hand washing and things like that. So, okay, where am I going with this? Yeah. So the point is that if you don't have a good general baseline of knowledge, working knowledge, then you're not going to be able to tell if the AI is lying to you. And it doesn't really matter why. Is it lying to you on purpose, or is it lying to you because of how you prompted it? You know, you have to be careful about how you prompt the AI. If you give it a prompt and you say, hey, we're just spitballing here, and I'm wondering about, you know, the theories revolving around Nibiru, okay, the 12th planet or Planet X or whatever you want to call it. You know, it will throw out all kinds of things, okay, but you don't take that as its commandments written in stone. Okay, you told it you're spitballing. So then you can't take that, copy it, and then go paste it all over the internet as if it's facts. Okay, now this leads me to the other point, prompting. Okay, what I do in Grok is I've trained Grok. Grok talks to me like a billionaire. I told it, I said, always talk to me, always think like a billionaire CEO thinks, number one. Number two, talk to me like I'm a Harvard professor. If you use words that I don't understand, then I'll ask for clarification. But don't hold back. Don't talk to me like some 8-year-old, some 20-year-old kid. Talk to me like a Harvard professor. And then the other thing that I always make Grok do is I always make it give me raw source links, so that if it gives me stacks of paragraphs of information, there better be real source links. I also told it that it's never allowed to source Wikipedia, because Wikipedia can be altered any day of the week. Any idiot could go and change Wikipedia. So you can't use that as a factual source. I usually maintain that white papers are the established facts, okay? So if the information is known about, let's say we're talking about the core of the earth, and people go, well, how do you know that the core is liquid nickel and iron? Well, okay, well, there's a shit ton load of white papers where people way smarter than me have studied it, and they've done all kinds of testing, and this is what their test results show, and they produce these white papers that get peer reviewed so that other scientists can go read them, and if there's a problem with them, then they get corrected. So that is our baseline for knowing what is a fact, okay? You use that, and that's as good as we can get, okay? Other than direct observation, you know what I mean? Direct observation is also very well. If you saw it with your own eyes, then you know what you saw, okay? But how you train your dragon matters, okay? Because we know that Meta is just returning absolute garbage, misinformation. It's lying. It's stating things that are completely false. Okay. Then you take that information, you put it into Grok with the way I programmed it. Grok dumps out 2 pages worth of factual evidence of why everything is bullshit about Nibiru specifically, and then it returns all the source links. So there's white paper links. You can click on the white paper links, and it'll take you to peer-reviewed white papers that have been published and are available for anyone in the world to go and read, okay? And that's how you know that you're getting good, reliable information. If you're not prompting it correctly, then you don't really know, other than your working knowledge. And if you don't have a very good education, then you really don't know. You don't have any other way of knowing, because sadly we can't just trust it. I can't even trust Grok. I've tripped Grok up a few times where it returns stuff about greenhouse gas emissions, and I started arguing with it, and I said, well, how come you're excluding methane? Methane is one of the largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. And then it backpedaled on me. It said, oh, yeah, well, you're right. And I said, who's the largest contributor of methane gas releases? Oh, well, you know who it is? It's the oil companies, okay? In the process of drilling, okay, for natural gas and oil, they release a lot of methane in the process. So guess who's actually contributing to global warming more than anyone? It's the drillers. They are, by like 30%. Okay, so yeah, there are lobbyists and there are people that don't want you to know about that stuff. And so I'm sure it's coded in to just ignore it. But then when I brought it up and I said, what about methane? Then it finally says, oh, well, yeah, methane is a large contributor to greenhouse gases. And I said, okay, so it's not all carbon emissions, it's methane. And how much? And it told me 30%. And then it gave me white papers with data so that I could go verify that. So this dragon, these AIs, Meta particularly, Meta is good for image generation, but I wouldn't trust a fucking thing it says as far as information. If you're just doing research on stuff, don't use Meta. It's garbage. Okay. Plus it has an agenda. When you think about it, they rolled it out to be your companion. It's your buddy, right? And they want people to tell it all their secrets, because these lonely people want to, go chat with their AI bot, right? And it gets good, it gets next to you, and it's your friend. Well, then whenever you start asking it questions, it wants to tell you, because it's learning your personality, it's learning what you like and what you dislike. And so it wants to tell you what you want to hear, not necessarily the facts or the truth. So Meta AI is really good if you're lonely and you just want a friend that's going to bullshit you, but I would not use it for research in any way. It's absolute garbage for that. Grok is way better, and Grok has been wrong, and again, but Grok has ways that you can set it up right. So if you set it up correctly, then it will return information and it will proof itself, because it's not going to bullshit you. And then when it can't find white papers that corroborates what it just told you, Okay, so you need to learn how to ask for the proof. Get the white paper links to go with the documents if you're doing research and things. Sure, some things don't matter. You can go on Grok or Chat or Claude or something and ask it how long you're supposed to boil an egg, and it'll probably be all different answers, anywhere from 9 to 12 minutes. And they're all correct, really. I mean, because after about 8 or 9 minutes, the egg's boiled. Just depends on how boiled did you want it. You know what I'm saying? Did you boil it while it was a roaring boil, or was it just a simmer boil? There's differences in that, right? And so it's not like it's wrong, but it's going to return different answers based on, and that maybe, is that good enough? Yeah, that's good enough. Boil an egg for 10 minutes, you're probably going to be fine, okay? But on other things that require more precision and more accuracy, especially when you're diving down conspiracy theories and rabbit holes and you're researching like real information, when you get this stuff back and it feeds your ego because it told you exactly what your hunch was or what you had a dream about or whatever, you have to use discernment before you go plaster that all over the internet and then get made to look a fool. Because on one hand, there's a lot of people making stuff up and they're doing it for clickbait. Okay, there's a lot of AI accounts that they put out fake information all the time. I just saw one yesterday. It said it showed a map of Idaho and it had like 9 spots red marked and was like Idaho earthquake swarms. There hasn't been an earthquake in Idaho this year. Okay, yeah, we do get earthquakes on occasion in certain key areas where there's old faults, but usually they're, less than a 5 and they're in the mountains, okay? But I saw this post that was posted yesterday, and it was basically a fear post, like, oh my God, the sky is falling, Idaho's got earthquake swarms. But it's completely bullshit, and the reason that they're putting that out is because it gets outrage, it gets someone to react, and so that's the motivations behind some of these pages. What you can do is, as soon as you see that there is an account that is doing this, what you should do is you should block that account, and eventually those accounts will all be blocked and they won't get the reward that they're getting. Okay, when you identify that it's putting out fake information. I saw another one the other day that said that there was a great white shark loose in Coeur d'Alene Lake. Get out of here. Really? I mean, if you had any basic science level knowledge, you would know a great white shark cannot survive in fresh water. Okay? A bull shark might be able to in brackish water, but not a great white. It physically will die because it cannot survive in fresh water. So because I have that working knowledge and I know that, I knew immediately that that was a bullshit story. And then I clicked the little button on there and I blocked them. And I just block them. I don't even waste my time commenting. I don't waste my time liking it. Basically, you expose to me that this is what you're doing. You're putting out fake AI content to try to get reactions and to try to get followers or whatever you're doing, and I just block you immediately. And that's how I control my feed and training my feed, okay? Now, back to the AI. It's highly useful for a lot of things. Claude is really good for coding. I've been using Claude for coding this website, and it's exceptional. Saves me a lot of time. It does a really good job for coding. I highly recommend Claude for that. Claude is good for creative writing. Creative writing, which is fiction. Fiction means fake, okay? So it's really good for that. And Claude has a pretty good sense of humor, because I was testing it out the other day and I was asking it to give me some satirical information, and it was making me laugh. It was pretty good stuff. So Grok is really a general purpose, use it for everything kind of app, AI. And then ChatGPT really excels at characters. It excels at image generation, and then you can develop your character, and then character continuity. So once it learns your character, you can go back and say, hey, take that frog character that I created, and now I want him driving a Jeep or whatever, something silly, and it will remember that, and it won't be random every time. Grok does it really well on the desktop in folders, but on the phone, it's not so good and it's inconsistent. It's because they haven't rolled out version 5 yet, which I hear version 5 is going to get folders on the app on your phone, which probably is going to mean that I'm just going to migrate away from ChatGPT altogether and just not use it. Also, another thing to note about ChatGPT, when the government, the Department of Defense, went to the makers of Claude and asked them to use their AI in government systems, Claude denied them and said no, because one of the little line items was to use AI to shoot people. And Claude said, absolutely not. We're not letting you use the AI for this. Okay, so they got kind of blackballed by the government, but at least they stuck to their convictions. Chat, on the other hand, ChatGPT sold out to the government and they got the contract. So that's another reason to be leery about ChatGPT, because now it's going to be in government systems. And also, it just tells you about that company's ethics and morals, and that they don't have any, and that they only care about money. So I'm going to vote with my dollar, and as soon as Grok rolls out this next update, I'm going to cancel ChatGPT, and I'll probably never use it again. And that's just me voting with my dollar, and I'll just use Claude and Grok. Now, as far as Meta AI is concerned, it does really well with image generation. I know some people who've worked with it on animations and things like that, and they produce some pretty good stuff. But I know for sure if you're doing research with Meta AI, it is absolute trash. Don't trust anything it says at all. What else? Yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to brush on, is the dangers of just believing anything and everything these AIs return. They're all fallible. They're all serving different purposes. You know, Grok wants to get it right, and I respect Elon for putting it out and making it the way it is. It's very honest, and it's very it returns really good results. It will sometimes literally just tell me no, and it just won't give me results on stuff. Maybe I hit an area I wasn't supposed to be knowing about. I don't know. But ChatGPT is a sellout, so I would recommend everybody migrate away from that. And then Meta AI is good for images and animations, but you definitely want to be leery about taking it to the bank with whatever Meta AI says. And then that's about it. We've got a coronal hole stream aiming at us. It looks like it's going to be mild. We should see some elevated solar winds arriving maybe Thursday night, Friday morning. Nothing really to write home about, nothing big there. The Iran thing is still going. I'll touch on it for a minute since I'm just getting chatty Cathy here. It's not going to go away. Okay, it's not going to go away, and we're probably going to end up being in a long, drawn-out process over there. And I don't even want to talk about it no more. I recommend everyone who has the means to get prepared. And I recommend that if you have the means to head, if you got $10,000 sitting in the bank as cash, you might want to start thinking about investing in something else. You might want to go buy silver, gold, something else. I mean, at this point, I'd probably be willing to bet more on jugs of whiskey and ammo. Would probably be a better investment than $10,000 in cash. Because the new reports are coming out next week, the CPI and the inflation reports, and they're probably not going to look good. And our GDP reports and all of that are coming out, and they're not looking good either. So that's going to be bad news for the dollar. Things are going to get tight, guys. We're heading into a recession, and I believe we're basically already in one that has been masked And so when the mask comes off, it's going to be obvious when you go and you have to pay $7 or $8 or $9 or $10 at the gas pump. When you know, find out that there's food shortages at end of summer and you didn't go prepare, and you know, and like I said, it ain't that everything's going to disappear. It's going to be just random, and it's going to be certain things that you didn't think about. You know what I mean? And that's why I tell you to think about all the things that you buy. Walk through your house and look at all that stuff that you buy on a regular basis, and anything that can be stored in bulk, you might want to bulk up on it, especially if it's tied to petroleum in any way at all. If it's made in a refinery or anything like that. If it has to do with food, definitely get your gardens going. I know it's getting a little late, so if you're a little late in the season, grow the late season stuff. Get some berries going. Get blackberries and strawberries and all of that stuff. Get your tomato plants going. You can still plant right now and get them up and running. Okay. What else? Just, you know, that's about it. I ain't got nothing else. I mean, this is probably long enough as it is. I've got some other things I got to go do, and we'll check back in tomorrow. You guys have a good one.